Hi everyone, I'm attorney Aiden Kramer with the Law Office of Aiden H. Kramer in Colorado, and you're watching All Up in Your Business. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the difference between independent contractors and employees. So right now, while I film this, it's mid-March, which means that we're just about a month away from when taxes are due. So employees should be finishing up filing their taxes. Employers and businesses should probably already have sent out their W-2s and 1099s. And so because it's that time of year, I wanted to talk about the difference between what an independent contractor is and what an employee is. I see quite often, it's very common that businesses, especially in their beginning stages, want to avoid having to deal with payroll and payroll taxes and worrying about providing benefits to employees. And so there's this common misconception that you can just kind of hire someone to do a job for you and just send them a 1099 at the end of the year and not have to worry about any sort of payroll taxes or any other legal implications of hiring that person. People just use this term 1099 employee as if it's a real thing, when in reality, if someone is acting more like an employee than an independent contractor, then you have to treat them as an employee, which means paying them and deducting payroll taxes and possibly providing those benefits. So because it's so common and because we're right smack dab in the middle of the tax season, I wanted to go over what those differences are. Because if you get it wrong and if you misclassify somebody as an independent contractor when really they should be an employee, the IRS will get really mad at you and they'll charge you penalties and back taxes, and you can get in a lot of trouble for paying someone as an independent contractor and instead of an employee. And likewise, there are some liability concerns because the employer can be liable for actions of an employee and most often aren't necessarily liable for actions of an independent contractor. So getting that classification correct is very, very important. So there are a number of factors that go into whether somebody is an independent contractor or an employee. And all these factors kind of circle around this idea of control and the amount of control that a business has over the worker. So the first factor is the tools and equipment and materials that the worker uses and who supplies those to the worker. If the business is supplying equipment, material, tools to the worker, then the worker is probably an employee. If the worker is coming in with their own set of tools, their own materials, everything they're bringing in themselves, then the worker may be an independent contractor. Similarly, the next factor is the manner in which the worker gets the work done, how he or she gets the work done, when they get it done, and whether it's on the worker's own terms or if they have to work under the guidelines and the supervision of the business. If a worker is doing things on their own time and in their own schedule and in a way that they can control, then the worker is probably an independent contractor. If the business says, here's what we need done, you can go out, do it however you want, whenever you want, get it done, and we'd like it, have it done by this time, then it's probably an independent contractor relationship. But if the business is saying, you need to be here at a certain time, we need you to work in this location between these times and in this manner, here's how we want you to get it done, then the business is exercising a lot of control, and it's probably an employer-employee relationship rather than an independent contractor relationship. The next factor is the amount of training that the worker receives. If it's an independent contractor, the independent contractor should have some level of knowledge and skill already and shouldn't require much training from the business at all to get this service done. If the business is bringing someone in and has to teach them every step and exactly how to do the service that they want done, then it's probably an employee rather than an independent contractor. An independent contractor should already have a basic idea or even a thorough idea of how they're going to get that work done and should only require some information and very little training. The next factor is kind of the most obvious one, and well, at least it should be the most obvious one, is if the worker is providing this service to other people, then he's probably an independent contractor. If you're bringing in, for example, an attorney, if someone hired me to draft some documents for a business, if a business needed me to get some work done for them, I'm an independent contractor. I'm providing this service to a wide range of people. I'm not solely providing this service to this one business. And that's kind of the main difference in this instance between me as an independent contractor and an employee. An employee is going to be providing this service just to this business. So if a business is bringing somebody in expecting that that person's only going to work for that business and only going to provide that service for that business, then it's probably an employee. And in that same idea, independent contractors are typically going to be working as their own business. They'll have either a business name or they'll be doing it under a trade name, and it should be fairly obvious that this person provides this service to the general public, and so that's why this business is hiring it, as opposed to going out and getting an individual who's just looking for one company to work with. That's an employee. The next factor has to do with how the worker is paid. If the worker has to submit time to the business and is paid at an hourly rate or at a regular wage and the time is monitored by the business, then it's probably an employee. Think about going out and hiring some sort of service provider like a plumber. The plumber is not going to punch in a time clock and record their time and submit it to you for payment. They're going to get the job done the way that they do it, and then they're going to send you an invoice for it. An independent contractor should be sending you an invoice or some similar instrument for getting that payment. And it may show their time that they spent. That's fine, but they should still be sending you this invoice to receive payment, as opposed to tracking time on an hourly basis or some similar wage control like in an employment relationship. And the last factor has to do with the dependence of the worker on this job and the permanence of it. If the worker is depending on this one specific job with this business, and if this job goes away, then the worker is basically unemployed, then it's probably an employee. Whereas if that worker is providing this service to multiple people and this job goes away, this one job goes away, then the worker is not going to be totally out on the streets, because hopefully this person's providing this similar service to multiple businesses, so it'll be able to find somebody else. And while it could be detrimental to lose that one business, it's not going to be the end of the world. And if this relationship has the feel that it's permanent or long-term, I'm bringing you on, we don't know for how long, and there's not a specific project that you're working on, then it's probably an employment relationship. Whereas in an independent contractor relationship, there's sort of, even if it's not written down or nailed down specified job, there's some sort of idea that here's what we're needing you to do, and once it's done, our relationship is done. And that's what an independent contractor is. So my biggest piece of advice when determining whether someone's an independent contractor or an employee is go with your gut. If the person looks like an employee, talks like an employee, feels like an employee, then the person's probably an employee and you need to treat them as an employee. So that's all for this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, send me a message. Otherwise, if you are in Colorado and want to speak with me specifically, feel free to contact me. My information's below. So I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a little something, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.